Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. So today, I'm going to be sharing my November wrap-up. Alright guys, so let me start off by apologizing for my voice. If you can't tell, I have been sick all week, and unfortunately, this is the only day I have to film this video unless I want to film my November wrap-up after Christmas. So we are just gonna power through. I have cough drops on the side. I'm gonna be taking every like 5 takes or so. So once again, I apologize for the way my voice sounds. But anyway, I read some amazing reads in November. There's a mix of fantasy romance and romance. And it was just such an amazing reading month. Like, some of these books are going to definitely be my top reads of the year. So I'm very excited to talk about them with you guys. And if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about the books I read in November. All right, guys, so like all my other wrap-ups, I am going to sort this by genre. So we're going to start off with fantasy romance. First up, we have A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this was actually a reread for me, and I reread this because, one, A Light in the Flame was released this month, which is the second book in this series, and also so I could film a recap video. So if you want a recap of everything that happened in this book, I will leave that recap video linked in the cards and in the description. But I actually rated this book a little bit lower on my reread. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the series, we have From Blood and Ash, which is one of my favorite series of all time, and this is the first book in the prequel series. However, if you are going to be reading these books for the first time, both series, I do suggest reading them in publication order. But anyway, I digress. So this book is following Sarah and Niktos. Sarah is this girl who has been raised in isolation because she will one day be the consort of Niktos, who is the god of death. Now, Sarah's people believe that Niktos actually has made a deal that when Sarah is given over to him as a consort, this blight that is killing all the crops and everything might stop happening. But also, her people don't exactly believe Niktos is going to stick to his word, so they are training Sarah to eventually kill Niktos. So her main job is to be his consort, seduce him, and then kill him, and then save all of her people. Unfortunately, when Niktos comes to claim her, he ends up changing his mind and says, hey, I don't need a consort, and leaves. And then it's really following Sarah from there. I really love this story. I love the romance between Niktos and Sarah. I love the characters, and the action is great. I will say the writing in this, I feel like I struggled with a little bit. So Jennifer L. Armentrout uses some contemporary phrases in this book. Like at one point, Sarah says something lives rent-free in her head. And I don't love when fantasy does that because it really takes me out of the story. But overall, this was still a really good read, and I highly recommend, especially if you like From Blood and Ash, definitely check out the prequel series. And next up, to no one's surprise, I read A Light in the Flame by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So I can't go in depth of my feelings towards this book just because it will give away a lot of spoilers. I will say I did end up rating it 4 stars. Pacing wasn't great. This is very slow paced. I feel like she could have taken 150 pages out of this book and we still would have gotten the same story, just gotten through it a little bit quicker. However, the ending of this book, I was mouth open, jaw dropped, was not prepared. And then the action scenes, I really love the way Jennifer L. Armentrout writes them. I always feel like on the edge of my seat anytime I'm reading one of her battle scenes. And then also the chemistry between the two characters is just, it's great. So highly recommend, especially if you already enjoy From Blood and Ash and you've read the first book in the prequel series. I think you will definitely enjoy this. I just feel like it definitely could have been a little bit shorter. And next up, I read Dance with the Fae Prince by Elise Kova. So this is following Katee, and Katee's been living a pretty terrible life. Her stepmother hates her, essentially, and treats her terribly, and eventually decides that she is going to sell Katee off to the highest bidder. So Katee is wed to this mysterious lord, and luckily for Katee, this mysterious lord treats her pretty well. He wants to make her comfortable. His only rule is that you cannot look upon his face. So Katee is obviously very intrigued by her new husband. And one day, she ends up stumbling upon this gathering that is happening in the woods. And when she interrupts this gathering, she accidentally steals magic from her new husband, who she then discovers is actually a Fae prince. So she has to go into the Fae lands with her husband and his friends and try to get this stolen magic out of her. And it is their story. So the thing with Elise Kova, this is my second book by this author, while I'm reading the books, they are enjoyable. However, I forget them like a day after I've read them. I literally had to go back on Goodreads to like remind myself what this book was about. So overall, while enjoyable, the books are a little bit forgettable. And I feel like the romances never have quite enough like tension or what I'm looking for. I never really feel like the two characters connect. So I think I ended up rating this like 3.5 stars. I think if you enjoy fantasy romance, you will definitely enjoy this book, especially if you've read other books by this author. I feel like she has a very lyrical and very similar writing style. But overall, this book just didn't really work for me. But I still recommend if you like fantasy romance. And next up, I read Entreat Me by Grace Draven. So I actually buddy read this with Bex Reads. So I will have her channel linked down in the description below. I had a great time buddy reading this with her. This book is phenomenal. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it is just so darn good. So we are following Lou. She has a longer name. We're going to shorten it to Lou. And she is a widow. She's currently living with her father, or her father and sister are really living with her. Her father has pretty much put the family into terrible debt. So there is this lord that wants to marry her sister, and in doing so, it will kind of erase the debt that the father owes to him. Now, the sister is like, hell no, and runs off with this handsome guy that she's been talking to. Now, Lou is very concerned for her sister's first safety and also reputation, so she follows her sister to this abandoned, creepy castle, and when she gets there, she finds out that the prince, or the guy that the sister is in love with, is actually cursed, and so is his father. And they live in this castle that is stuck in time, and it is so good. Highly recommend. If you don't read any other books off this wrap-up, definitely read this book. This had a lot of nods to the original like Beauty and the Beast cartoon, but it still felt completely original, and I just love the romance. It was so good. Just definitely, if you like fantasy romance and you like Beauty and the Beast retellings, pick this book up. And next up I read The Dragon Bride by Katee Robert. So I was not expecting the romance in this book to be so cute. This is following Briar, and in the beginning of the story, she makes a deal with a demon that if the demon will kill her abusive husband, in exchange, she will go live with the being of the demon's choosing for 7 years. And if she has a child with whatever being she is with, she must leave said child in the other world that she's about to go to. Now, the way time works is Briar isn't actually going to age while she's gone for the 7 years. And also, the being that she is placed with isn't allowed to force her or hurt her in any way. So Briar, realizing she really has no choice, ends up signing this deal and ends up being given to a dragon man. So this dragon is just the nicest guy, and he realizes that Briar has been through it with her ex-husband, or her now deceased husband, and is just really trying to teach her how to love herself, and he also like really takes care of her, and he makes sure she's ready for like, he's just a great dragon, and so opposite from what her ex-husband was. So I enjoyed this so much more than I thought I was going to. It was so nice to see Briar slowly heal and learn to trust in a partner, and I'm very excited to read the rest of the books in this series. Now, I have heard that the Kraken man or something of that nature, in love with a Kraken, something like that. I'll put the cover on the screen. I know a few people that have read it and haven't been enjoying it, so I'm a little nervous to jump into it, but I'm also very curious how that works. So I will be reading that also in December. And yeah, once again, I enjoy Katee Roberts' writing. It's very rare that I read a book from her that I don't like. So I cannot wait to continue with this series. All right, so moving into romance, we are going to start off with dark romance, and specifically age gap romance, because I read a decent amount of them this month. First up, we have Wanting Mr. Kane, and this is by Shanora Williams. I actually read the first 3 books in this series, Wanting Mr. Kane, Breaking Mr. Kane, and Loving Mr. Kane, all this month. And I will say this first book is definitely my favorite. This is such a taboo, angsty romance. We are following Kandi, and when she is very young, she meets her dad's best friend, Mr. Kane. He is covered in tattoos, he's a millionaire, and he just has the whole bad boy vibe. So Kandi right away has a huge crush on him, but nothing really happens until she turns 18. And one night, she starts pushing the limits of their relationship, and they end up having this secret affair, and it's so good. If you like age gap, dad's best friend romance, this is probably one of my favorites. I just love how assertive Kandi is, but also how Mr. Kane really ends up taking control, and it was just great. Now, I will say, with the rest of the series, the first book I think I rated 4.5 stars. Second book was 3.5, and then Loving Mr. Kane is probably 2.5. it completely changed from being like a taboo romance to more of like romantic suspense by the third book. So just know that going in, and I think that's why I rated it so low. I actually did enjoy all the books. It was just such a different vibe from the first book to the third book, and I really wish we kind of kept more of that like taboo forbidden romance and left out a little bit of the romantic suspense. But overall, still an amazing series, and I cannot wait to read more from Shanora Williams. And next up, I read my first ever QB Tyler book. So we have Love Unexpected. This was actually gifted to me by my friend Sabrina from Instagram, so thank you so much. This book was so spicy, and I was just not expecting it. So this is a stepfather-stepdaughter relationship. I think it might be one of the only ones I've ever read. I've read Godfather, Goddaughter. I think this is my first stepfather. But wow, forbidden. So this is following Stasia, and when she's 10 years old, there is a new principal that starts working in her school named Dominic, and Stasia immediately has like a huge crush on him. Unfortunately, Dominic ends up marrying Stasia's mother. So for the next 8 years, Stasia ends up having Dominic as her stepfather, and they really don't have any other relationship besides that. They kind of get on each other's nerves, typical like teenager and stepfather. So then, unfortunately, Stasia's mother ends up passing away tragically in a car accident, and now Dominic and Stasia are stuck in this home together, and they are grieving, and then things start to progress into a sexual relationship. And I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this book, but I honestly did like Stasia and Dominic together. My big critique with this book is there is a little bit of suspense towards the end, and I feel like it gets wrapped up really quickly. I feel like the ending just felt a little bit rushed. It could have been a little bit longer, and I would have enjoyed it more. But wow, this book is very, very spicy, and I cannot wait to read more from QB Tyler. I have Forget Me Not on my December TBR, so I cannot wait to read that. But yeah, definitely, if you want really forbidden, taboo, spicy stepfather-stepdaughter romance, I would pick this up. And last up for age gap, I read The Doctor by Nikki Sloane. So I actually read this as part of a new to me author reading blog, so I will leave that linked in the cards in the description. I recently went to Phillies Invade Indy, and Nikki Sloane was gonna be there, and I needed to read some of her books. I am so happy I picked up this one. So if you enjoy Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, this is essentially a sped up version of Birthday Girl. So it has a little less character development, but a lot more spice. And this was just fun. We are following this girl that's been dating this guy for a while, and their relationship is kind of stagnant. She feels like he's really just using her for sex and doesn't really care about her. So she ends up breaking things off with him, and then right away has a relationship with his father. And he is obviously a doctor, and it is just their relationship, and it is super spicy, super fun, and this was just an enjoyable read. And I already bought The Architect by this author that I will be picking up also in December. And a lot of people have told me to read The Pool Boy. I'm not sure how I feel about age gap where the woman is older, but I'm willing to check it out. So I am so happy I discovered Nikki Sloane. And definitely, if you like age gap, boyfriend's dad romance, check this out. And next up, I read the first 3 books in the Filthy Rich American series by Nikki Sloane. So this is following Marist. At the start of the book, she's 19 years old. She's kind of quirky, kind of a loner. She is really into Greek mythology and has like bright green hair. So she is a loner because Royce Hale, who was this super popular guy in high school, really kind of made her an outcast. Now, Royce is supposed to marry Marist's sister, but because of an event that takes place, that is no longer possible. So Royce finds out that he has to marry Marist, and it is their relationship. And while all of this is going on, we also have McAllister Hale, who is Royce's father, kind of pulling the puppet strings of all of these different like groups. And it's so good. It is just rich people drama at its finest. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think I was gonna like this book. So I did a poll over on Instagram, and this was like the second highest rated of books that I should read by Nikki Sloane. And I thought I was just gonna read this, and then I ended up reading all the first 3 books in the series in 2 days. It is just so addicting. I just needed to know what was gonna happen next, and it was such a fun time. So highly recommend. I still have to read book 4 and 5. I did buy them at Indies Invade Philly, so I will definitely be reading them soon. But this series is just, it's so fun. And like I said, so addicting. And next up is actually a novella. So I don't read very many spicy novellas, but I saw someone talking about this on TikTok and decided to give it a try. So this is The Four Leaf, and the audiobook is narrated by Valseros. And this is really fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. So we're following these 2 best friends, And the girl in the group kind of feels like she's been friend zoned. She's had a crush on her friend for a long time. However, he had the opportunity to kiss her once and he didn't take it. So a decade has passed. They are seeing each other for the first time since that happened. And we find out that the guy actually has a primal kink, and that is why he didn't kiss her. He was afraid that if she wasn't into that, it would ruin their friendship. And they decide to play hide and seek. So it is that game. And it was really fun. I listened to it in like an hour, and it was an enjoyable time. So I will definitely be checking out more like spicy novellas. Let me know in your favorite, or let me know what your favorites are down in the comments below, just because I have no idea even where to start with that. And last up for dark romance, I read Once Upon a Dream by Sierra Simone. So this is 3 different fairy tale reimaginings, but like with a very spicy modern twist. And this is the 3rd book I've read by Sierra Simone that I've rated under 3 stars. So I think I can officially say I have tried Sierra Simone's writing, and it is not for me. I can't get into their books. It doesn't work. However, the stories were interesting. So if you like fairy tale reimaginings and you're a fan of Sierra Simone, I think you will definitely enjoy this book. Personally, I have to give up trying. It's just not, they're not an author that I am going to be picking up in the future. Moving into contemporary romance, so typically I don't rate contemporary romances very high. However, all of the books I'm about to talk about, I actually rated 5 stars, and one of them is probably going to be my top read of the year. If not, it's definitely going to be in my top 3 favorite reads. This book was just so good, and that is Before I Let Go by Kandi Ryan. So this is following Yasmin and Josiah, and in the beginning of the story, they're just young and in love, to the point that Josiah just randomly drops on one knee and proposes to Yasmin, like as a spur of the moment thing. And they just really have this beautiful connection. And then the next chapter, we have jumped into the future, and they have been divorced for 2 years and are trying to co-parent their children. And throughout this book, you're figuring out or finding out what caused this fracture in the relationship. And it deals with a very upsetting event. And also, I feel like it has amazing like therapy representation and just communication. And it's really just one of the best second chance romances I have ever read. So I will say thank you so much to everyone that messaged me to tell me that this book has something that's very triggering for me to read. There is an event that takes place that is something that is on my like hard no, I will not read about this topics. And it does happen in here. However, I think it is handled very beautifully and very well. I think that Kandi Ryan must have done a lot of research or has had something like this happen to someone close to her, that she was able to discuss the way people feel. And it just felt like a very well researched and well handled book. And I feel like it could have come off as very upsetting, and it didn't. So this book is just absolutely beautiful. Second chance romance. I don't have a single negative thing to say about it. I very much enjoyed it. So definitely, if you want an emotionally impactful, very sad, but also very happy book, I would definitely check this out. And this next book is another book I read in that New to Me author vlog, and that is the Consolation Duet by Corinne Micheals. So this is actually 2 books. It's a bind up. And this is a military romance. And I didn't think I was a fan of military romances until I read this book. If you have any other military romance recommendations, please leave them down in the comments below. After finishing this, I need to read more. But this is following Natalie, and when she is 9 months pregnant, her husband is away on active duty, and then she gets a knock on her door. She finds out that her husband has been killed. So now her entire world is just flipped upside down. Natalie is now a single mother, and she is just trying to get by. So her husband's best friend ends up showing up and tries just to take care of Natalie. He promised his friend that if anything happened to him, he would do his best to make sure Natalie and their child was okay. And that's what he is going to do, and it is their story, and it is so good. So I just love the way we get to see how time kind of changes your perspective on past events. And I can't really go too in depth without giving away spoilers, but I love this. I thought this was so good. And I highly recommend, especially if you're a fan of military romances, I think you will definitely enjoy this book. It was perfect. And last up, I read Blindside by Kandi Steiner. So I feel like everyone I follow on like Romance BookTube loved this book last month, and I had been wanting to give it a try, but I knew it was the second in its series. But then a lot of you messaged me and said I could read this as a standalone, and I really, really enjoyed it. So we are following Clay and Gianna. So Clay is a football player. He's pretty popular at school. He's had the same girlfriend for a very long time, and she is now going to transfer into his college. However, when she transfers there, she ends up breaking up with Clay. So Clay is just absolutely heartbroken. He wants to get his ex-girlfriend back. And that is where Gianna comes in. So Gianna is the public relations manager, I believe, for the football team, and she has a crush on this musician. So Clay proposes that they do some fake dating, and that way his ex-girlfriend will get jealous over Gianna, and then Gianna's musician will get jealous over Clay. Obviously, as they're dating, they end up catching feelings for each other, and this was just a really enjoyable read. I really liked that there was a little added depth. Clay's mother is very irresponsible. She also has a little bit of substance abuse problems. So it's really him trying to navigate that situation. And we also find out that Gianna is from like a very religious household. So they don't always see like eye to eye. And all of her siblings are like very proficient. And she's kind of like the black sheep of the family. So I really, really enjoyed this. And I cannot wait to read the other books in this series. I did buy Fair Catch, which is the first book that I will be reading. And yeah, this was just a really enjoyable new adult romance. Alright guys, those are all the books I read in November. Thank you so much for tolerating my voice. I think I ate like 30 cough drops while doing this video. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you have read any of the books I talked about. And I said this already, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!